Tram driver Tatjana Granowska starts work at 4 a.m. while the rest of the Polish city of Wrocław still sleeps. Her job takes her past renovated pre-war buildings, modernist apartment blocks and along the banks of the Oder River.
Kilka godzin spędzam w mieście, które uwielbiam.
I spend hours every day in the city I love. I watch it. I see the city full of life. You sit in this small cab, feeling really small, but pulling this enormous vehicle behind you, like a giant caterpillar. It's quite a feeling.
I robi to wrażenie.
Tramline 1, or Linia 1 in Polish, is the best way to get to know Wrocław. It highlights a city that is constantly changing. It's the country's fourth largest city and a key cultural centre. Our first stop is the Wuwa housing estate. The Bauhaus development was built almost a century ago. A pavilion houses a cafe and information centre. Employee Julia Urbanek says it's the perfect combination of culture and coffee.
Bardziej naprawdę z tych wszystkich kawiarni, które są we Wrocławiu, ja bardzo chciałam
Of all the cafes in Wrocław, I really wanted to work here at Wuwa because of its cultural heritage.
I z doświadczenia powiem, że bardzo często klienci
Lots of our customers don't just come to the cafe. They order coffee to go and take a walk through the development.
I spacerują po osiedlu.
Wuwa is short for Wohnung und Werkraum Ausstellung, which is German for apartment and workshop exhibition. The area was built as part of a large exhibition in the 1920s. The exhibition wanted to offer solutions to the housing shortage following World War I. Julia and her friend Zara like the concept.
Tak, tutaj mamy hotel i to jest hotel, który był zbudowany...
Here is a hotel built for childless, single people.
Bezdzietnych.
The goal of Wuwa was to bring people like that together, to create a communal space for them.
Wszystkie te osoby i stworzyć taką jedną kolektywną przestrzeń.
The focus was on providing affordable housing.
The whole development was built in 3 months. Unbelievable.
The residential buildings feature flat roofs and large gardens. They were built using materials that were innovative at the time. In 2010, the city began working on a plan to revitalize the subdivision at a cost of about €1.5 million. Nearly all of the buildings are now occupied.
It's a shame visitors aren't allowed to look inside.
True.
Jestem na 3. roku historii sztuki, właśnie tam się poznałyśmy.
I'm a third-year art history student, which is how I met Sarah. I'm from Łódź.
Jestem tutaj też dlatego, że
I came to Wrocław because I fell in love with the place.
I mam bardzo podobne zdanie.
The neighborhoods have so much character, and I love the orderly German architectural style.
Myśl konstrukcyjną. I to jest
I really miss that in Łódź.
Bardzo w Łodzi brakowało takiego porządku.
Tram driver Tatjana Granowska was born in Kazakhstan. She's lived in Wrocław for 17 years. She has a front row seat to the city's evolution.
Bo cały czas coś się naprawia, remontuje.
There's always something being renovated or built. Old buildings, houses or whatever.
O to, że we Wrocławiu cały czas coś się zmienia.
The city is getting more beautiful, that's obvious. There are lots of positive changes.
Next stop, Centennial Hall. It opened in 1913 and is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's home to a flea market every weekend at 1 Westerwowa Street. It's a bargain hunter's dream. This man just bought 4 watches for about €5.
Look how beautiful they are. The hands are visible, and they work just like a quartz watch. Tick, tick, tick. Although I don't know if they actually work.
A place where nostalgia and passion meet. Polish car fans can also find what they're looking for.
I want all three.
3?
3 metal ones.
90, that's right.
I'll hang them in the garage beside my old Polski Fiat. That car's been with us forever. I've driven it everywhere. It was like a truck. It could carry anything, and it never let you down.
Once when we were driving, our daughter said, "Isn't this great? Everyone's watching us."
Other vintage treasures can also be found.
Torba po masce gazowej.
This is a gas mask. I've got a few charms here. This one is a handmade eye. You don't find these sorts of things in stores. They're beautiful. Modern items don't have a lot of accents or accessories. I love little details that most people don't notice. You can find these sort of things here.
Są tutaj.
Wrocław's Centennial Hall is a monumental steel and concrete structure. It was designed by architect Max Berg as a symbol of a new era. Its dome is 42 meters high with 4 tiers and measures 65 meters across, a span that had never before been attempted when it was built. Berg called it the Cathedral of Democracy. Today, it's considered the pearl of Wrocław modernism. There is a permanent exhibition as well as regular events. Communications officer Tomasz Miszkowolski gives us a guided tour.
Hi, I need the keys for the doors at the very top.
He shows us parts of the building that are off limits to visitors.
What we call the crown of the dome is only open to authorized personnel, like our technicians.
We climb up the narrow staircase up to the highest level of the hall, 50 steps.
That door's a little stiff.
Be careful on your steps, please.
This area is used by the technical crew. There are all kinds of lights up here, some of them permanent. We can set up just about anything. The dome can bear unbelievable loads.
The hall's windows have only recently been updated to match the German architect's original plans.
Jedną rzeczy, która jest unikatowa w hali, są szyby, których
These windows are unique, but they were only installed after the 2009 renovation. Max Berg designed them, but the city of Wrocław didn't have the money. Berg wanted to have these yellow panes, so that no matter what the weather was like outside, the light inside would be like a sunset.
Od pogody na zewnątrz, my mamy tutaj oświetlenie jak przy zachodzącym słońcu.
The building was met with heavy skepticism during construction between 1911 and 1913. Locals mockingly called it the Hat Box. Even the workers distrusted the structure, refusing to loosen the first tension bolts on the massive formwork ribs holding it in place. But it's now an architectural icon, as well as a venue that holds over 10,000 people.
We're coming back down. Can you lower the blinds? Great, thanks.
Akustyka w hali jest wyzwaniem, ale to jest wyzwanie.
The acoustics here are a challenge, but in the hands of a good sound engineer, they're wonderful. When the hall was built, it was important to have natural light for events and exhibitions.
My mamy oczywiście trochę zabiegów turystycznych.
That's why there are so many large windows.
To jest, trzeba pamiętać, w założeniach hala, która miała służyć zarówno...
But they really reflect the sound, causing reverberations.
Tam, gdzie potrzebujemy światła. Wiadomo, że szyby są pewnym wyzwaniem dla akustyki.
We use shutters and curtains when we want to have proper acoustics.
Wiszą w kuluarach, które pomagają nam odpowiednio nagłośnić to
For good sound engineers, it's no problem.
W tym fachu to nie jest żaden problem.
The hall's 600 shutters take several minutes to close. making voices sound quieter and less echoey. Tatjana's drive through Wrocław's various neighborhoods is like a journey through time. Over its eventful history, the city has been under Bohemian, Austrian, Prussian and German rule. After World War II, 90% of what had been the city of Breslau lay in ruins, and the formerly German city became Wrocław, part of Poland. Back then, the #1 tram was the first to start running again, a sign of hope after the devastating war.
It was a real celebration. Poles and Germans had been clearing the rubble from the streets. They dropped everything and watched this tram go by, as if it were something incredible. The tram symbolized the return of normality to the city.
Tatjana Granowska repeatedly crosses the Oder River. Wrocław is spread across 12 islands connected by 112 bridges.
Dobry.
Kamil Zaremba lives differently to other Wrocław residents. He's built his own houseboat, making the Oder River his backyard. Zaremba lives in harmony with nature in the center of the city.
Inaczej, dlatego że mamy blisko do przyrody, bo te pływające ogrody, które tutaj widać.
Outside our windows we have the floating gardens. We grow our own mint. We dry it, brew it into infusions and drink it when we have a stomachache. It feels good to be connected to nature. It's so tangible here. You can reach out and touch it. The birds, the fish, the entire ecosystem of the river. It's all around us.
Kamil Zaremba had to wait 8 years to get permission to live on his houseboat. Even after moving in, he couldn't officially register his details because Polish law doesn't recognize the river as an address.
Czasami bolało, to trzeba przyznać, że to nie było takie.
It was painful at times. It was all slow. Nothing happened overnight. I can see how much effort it was from the number of binders I've accumulated over the years. 8 of them, all bulging. They're covered in dust now. And I've learned humility in the face of the Administrative Procedures Act. That's the Bible that every government official relies on.
Biblia, w którą każdy urzędnik się powołuje na kodeks postępowania administracyjnego.
His houseboat was eventually entered into the shipping registry, and he got an address. Zaremba's investment paid off. He rents 300 square meters of the riverbed for around €20 a year.
Tak. Chodź, tak, dobry piesek. Tak, już idziemy. Okay.
From the beginning, his wife, Marzena, has supported him.
Bye. Bye.
Zaremba has a second houseboat next door. It's both his workplace and his life's passion. The Oder Centrum is a research center for the river's ecology and its often dramatic history.
1997 was a turning point. There was a once-in-a-century flood in Wrocław and throughout the region. The Oder River took virtually everything I owned. I was a commercial photographer and my entire studio was gone.
Zaremba's photo studio was destroyed in the flood, although his private collection of cameras remained safe in his apartment. He shows us his favorite pieces, including an old German Agfa.
It's a 6x6 format. This is one of my first purchases. You have to wind it up. In the past, photos were taken with hand-cranked cameras. And here are the other cameras I've used over the years.
Przez wiele lat używałem, korzystałem.
He shows us other relics of times gone by, old barometers, kayaks, and even ship's lamps from when the city was known as Breslau.
To jest niesamowita kolekcja.
This is an incredible collection of ship's lamps from old Oder River vessels. I've collected them over many years to save them from being scrapped.
Zatrzymać chwilę, żeby to nie poszło do na złom. To niesamowite ujęcie.
This is fascinating. It shows the former city centre of Wrocław.
Wycieczkowe, które w tamtym czasie pływały.
There are 2 excursion boats, full with passengers. In that boat there are dredgers, people whose job it used to be to deepen the shipping channel.
Pogłębiaczy tej części Wrocławia.
The flood in 1997 claimed dozens of lives. Camille Zaremba still remembers watching the rescue operations.
Tutaj widać, jak wojsko...
You can see the military evacuating people. Whenever I see a helicopter like that, memories from the past come flooding back. I think back to 1997. I rushed back to Wrocław. You could hear helicopters taking off and landing everywhere. They were bringing flood victims from the surrounding towns to safety.
Helikopterów transportowych, które przywoziły powodzian z miast, które wokół Wrocławia zostały zalane.
And these images are from after the flood. Everything had to be thrown out and hauled away.
Wywoziły na wysypisko te wszystkie skażone.
Camille Zaremba is now no longer afraid of flooding.
Tutaj z kolei widzimy...
Here you can see the flood peak of September 2024. I always knew that having a houseboat was a good decision, but 2024 confirmed it.
Nigdy ani razu nie miałem wątpliwości, że to był dobry wybór. Potwierdziło się to w tym 24
My house and the neighbouring Oder centrum rose 1.7 meters up to the height of my nose. We sat at home and watched the flood outside. We were floating along with it. All sorts of objects were floating past us, strange things. We just sat safely and calmly at home.
Jakieś elementy czy jakieś wiaty przystankowe, dziwne rzeczy płynęły. A myśmy siedzieli bezpiecznie, spokojnie.
Today, I know it was a bit arrogant to feel that joy while others were suffering.
Nic się nie stało, bo inni płakali.
It's now the afternoon and tram driver Tatjana is on her way to her second job. She boards a different tram.
W starym tramwaju, szczerze mówiąc,
I ride along in the old historic tram as a tour guide. I talk about Wrocław. I won't be driving the tram myself.
ale nie prowadzam tramwaj.
Hello. No one here yet?
Not yet, but it's often completely packed.
Even with this heat?
Ja co miesiąc, bo wiesz, ja wycieczki oprowadzam.
Tatjana needs this side job to make ends meet. She's a single mother with 2 children.
After this, I have a city tour starting at 6 p.m.
Od 18.
We'll be done by 5, right?
Definitely.
This tour goes through the city centre from the Opera House to Centennial Hall.
Dzień dobry, witam serdecznie Państwa.
Hello and welcome. I'll be your guide today, telling you a bit about Wrocław as we tour the city. We begin our journey with this old tram, which was manufactured here in Wrocław in 1929 by the Linke Hoffman Company. It survived the war and remained in service until the 1970s.
Our guide gives us a rundown of the historical landmarks. These tram tracks have connected the city for over 140 years. The network is among the oldest in Europe.
Yes, unfortunately, there are often cars on our tracks. I like my job. I don't think a job should be quiet. It should be exciting, thrilling, interesting. The things I do every day give me strength and energy, motivation and joy. Here we have some houseboats on the water. The first one is the Oder Centrum, where you can learn a lot about the Oder River and about infrastructure on the water. There's a nice cafe there too.
Ale to się zrodziło w domu na wodzie.
I had the idea in 2012. I was doing well. I was sitting in an armchair on my houseboat. I started thinking about ways to help the city.
Co zrobić dla tej rzeki? Co zrobić dla Wrocławian?
My daughter was in high school at the time, and I had the idea to build a school on the water.
Myślałem sobie, że jednak trzeba zbudować szkołę na wodzie. Obiekt, który będzie uczył szacunku do
It would be an institution that teaches respect for the river and how to interact with it meaningfully.
Używania rzeki, życia nad rzeką.
The Oder Centrum is a sustainable houseboat. It floats almost silently on the water and never rests. Right now, there's a workshop on sustainable water management. It's being run by Martina.
Mówimy tutaj bardzo dużo o
We talk about saving water.
Mówimy tutaj, jak dużo
In the workshop, I try to show how much water is used to produce simple garments.
prosimy uczestników, żeby
We ask participants to bring in clothes they no longer want, so we can give them a second life.
drugie życie.
Karolina Kolarz actually lives in the UK. She's currently visiting relatives here in Wrocław.
Okay, it's a fun activity. I get to give my clothes a new life, and I get to go first time swimming on a boat because I am very scared of water, so I'm kind of facing my fear.
The participants also paddle out to a little paradise on the river.
We'll have to turn or we'll crash.
The kayakers soon approach their destination, a tranquil pool on the Wuwa River, which flows into the Oder. Tatjana Granowska is back in her tram the next day. She used to be a travel agent, but driving trams gives her a lot more satisfaction.
Że dlatego już 5. rok pracuję.
I've been driving trams for 5 years now. A long time.
Zachwycam Wrocławiem, codziennie odkrywam coś dla siebie.
The city always inspires me.
Różnych ludzi z różnymi
Every day
sytuacjami, więc
I discover something new and meet interesting people.
w tej pracy, który byłby podobny
No
do
2 days
poprzedniego.
are alike.
Więc codziennie coś innego.
The work itself is not exactly relaxing. One of the biggest stresses is having to share the road with cars.
Why do these people even have a rear view mirror? This happens every single day.
To codziennie.
Tatjana's route takes her through the Nadodje neighborhood and some of the most colorful buildings in the whole region. The area is home to a lot of low-income residents, people who have struggled to navigate the city's many changes. This neighborhood art project was started over a decade ago as a way to counteract the sense of neglect. Mariusz Mikołajek is one of the artists involved.
Mnóstwo było takich miejsc, gdzie było
Everywhere there were corners covered in feces and urine. There were syringes lying around and all kinds of other filth. People around here were just getting drunk.
gorzałe, po prostu i libacja była.
The artworks transformed the neighborhood. Zenon Diombowski is a trained locksmith, but the project helped him discover his artistic side. And he saw how art can bring Polish and Roma families closer together.
Z Romami to żeśmy się prali, no nie?
We were always butting heads with the Roma people. There were arguments and fights, different cultures and customs. There would always be a problem, and things would get serious.
Starcia i łomot.
When we painted the walls, the Roma children came over and joined in. And now, the Roma are our friends.
Teraz to są już przyjaciele Romowi.
Initially, the project relied on well-known Polish artists. They painted portraits of the residents. Then later, Zenon Diombowski says many of the locals joined in.
Ten albatros.
The albatross up there is ceramic. It's over 3.5 meters wide. I had to break it into 128 pieces just to install it. Everything had to be fired and sanded. It was quite a challenge.
The neighborhood has changed for the better. Residents are clearly proud of their buildings and yards. Tatjana's tram now heads towards the prefab apartment blocks on the outskirts of town, the dream of many people under socialism. Tatjana herself can only remember long lines in front of stores back in Kazakhstan. She was 17 when socialism collapsed in her homeland.
Personally, I don't feel any nostalgia for the old socialist era. I think things are better now, more opportunities, and women can better realize their full potential. They can achieve their goals and have hobbies.
But during her lunch break, Tatjana sometimes likes to visit relics of the socialist world, milk bars. That's what these cafeterias were called back in the Polish People's Republic. They still serve homemade food, a quick and affordable option. The Mich milk bar is a cult favorite on the city's culinary map.
One serving of Russian pierogi?
One Russian and one with sauerkraut.
You have 3 boxes, soup and then 2 other things. I put them in here.
At the Mich milk bar, a homemade lunch with a drink costs the equivalent of €3. Long lines form in front of Edita's registers at lunchtime. She hardly gets any time for a break. She works as fast as she can.
We have so many customers every day because the prices are so low. That's why it's so busy here from morning till night. We're super busy. We are subsidized by the city, not for meat, but for everything else, flour-based products and other things. That's why the prices are so good.
Anyone can eat at the milk bar. It's a place where students, retirees and workers all come together. Simple and affordable, just like the old days. Tatjana Granowska is now about to finish her shift. She's been on the tracks for 8 hours, taking passengers through this fascinating city in southwest Poland. In the suburb of Biskupin, she pulls the last switch, just as she's done at the end of every shift for the last 5 years. She doesn't miss her old job in the travel agency. As a tram driver, she says she feels like she's constantly experiencing the city. And with every trip, Wrocław becomes a little more like her city. The Kazakh driver has made her home here, in a city that never stands still. Lively, contradictory, and always changing.